Hi boys and girls, welcome back. I'm going to present the latest results on the Maxsym 600i, which is now called Max. So, it's logic. If you have a Maxsym 600i, then you call it Max. So my scooter is now called Max. I have a few things to tell you about how the scooter is holding up and the maintenance I did and the latest news and the latest tricks I discovered about the scooter. So stay tuned. I will have to go in pieces, so be patient. Just discrete pieces, just put together, and so you can see the various parts of it. So sit back, relax, and this is the Maxsym 600i. First things first, 11,571 kilometers. So this scooter has passed the 10,000 kilometer mark. Is, I guess, something less than 1 year old, and it has ridden some quite kilometers around here. Still a mix of highway and cities, but prevalently highway traffic. So this is how it looks today. Just rained, so it is reasonably cleaned, not as usual. Paint is holding pretty well. I didn't see anything wrong with that. As you can see, no peeling, no signs of unexpected problems on the paint side. Just give you some details about this. Is plastic, such as the rest, by the way, because everything is plastic here. Right. So as you see, it's holding up pretty well. Saddle is also quite alright. Nothing wrong with that. It's been used intensively. So altogether, 11,500 kilometers. This is the Maxsym, is Max, and it is holding pretty well. So now the scooter is cold. I didn't switch it on in quite a while, so it's perfectly normal. What you're gonna hear is what you're gonna hear. Doesn't matter what weather it is. It is really irrelevant. This is what you wanna get every single time. No exceptions whatsoever in 11,500 kilometers. Ready? There you go. 2 rounds and it starts. Clockwork. It's really amazing. Really amazing. I'm very happy with this, and be informed that this scooter hasn't seen a single day of garage. It has never been covered. It has always been completely in the open, either here or in the middle of the city or somewhere else, doesn't matter. It has never been inside. So this is something that you would hear with 5 degrees above, with storm, rain, wind, doesn't matter what you throw at it, it will start like that every single time from the cold. Perfect. Very well designed engine, very well balanced. Now, vibrations, stay tuned. So I got a few questions from people about how much does the Maxsym 600i actually vibrate. And this is what I can tell you. The Maxsym 600i vibrates a bit. That is true, absolutely. And I will show you how much. And then I will tell you a bit more about what kind of vibration it is in comparison to other means of transportation, for instance, a car, because I actually measured it. So look at this. This is the vibration you can expect from the Maxsym when it is on the center stand. I will show you, just a second. So now the Maxsym was in the center stand, right? So that means that the back wheel is not on the ground and the front wheel just about it. You can literally put it down with a very little pressure. There you go. The center stand is very well balanced as well. How much does it vibrate? Well, let's switch it on and we'll see. Okay. This is the left mirror, and that is the back mirror. Sorry, the right mirror. This is how much does it vibrate. And if you see in the mirror, you can see that the image reflected in the mirror is not particularly blurred. It's still pretty clear. In the other mirror, quite the same. You can still see fairly well on idle how much this thing vibrates. And if you look at the box, these are the vibrations we're talking about. There you are. Let's look at the screen. These are the vibrations we're talking about on the Maxsym. Now take into account, now Max is on the center stand and there is no dampening effect whatsoever on it. So these are the maximum vibrations you can get straight from the Maxsym itself. Okay, so there is no road effect, but there is also no dampening effect from the fact that it's actually sitting on the ground. Alright, now some measurements so you can appreciate and you can reproduce these results on whatever other machines you want to think about. Just a second. So guys, because I received so many questions about vibrations on the Maxsym 600i, and I was curious myself to take a view of how many vibrations are we talking about here. So I just decided to make a kind of semi-scientific experiment here, and I actually measure them. And measure vibrations is not particularly difficult. I downloaded an app on my phone called the Vibrometer. It's free. You can do exactly the same and check my results, or maybe compare my results with yours. I don't know. It would be interesting actually. So why don't you do that? So you download Vibrometer on your phone and you put it on your motorcycle or whatever else you feel like it, and you activate the app and you start the engine or whatever, and then you see how much does it vibrate. So what I did is to put my phone first here on the saddle, and I measured the vibration for a couple of minutes and I took the average. Then I put it here and I measured the vibrations there too for a couple of minutes. And what I discovered is that this thing vibrates on average here 0.35 meters per second and here 0.45 meters per second on average. And we are talking now, of course, about the scooter being on the center stand, so basically floating on one single point, which I think is the maximum vibration you can get because there is no dampening effect whatsoever. See? So the back wheel is off the ground, and the front wheel, maybe there are 5 or 10 kilos on it. The rest is all resting there. So those are the maximum vibrations you can get from the Maxsym 600i on idle, in idle situation. When you're riding this thing, well, the matter changes because the vibration you feel are depending on a number of different factors, like the road you're riding on, the wind, and a few other things. So that for me is not really important. But by itself, the Maxsym 600i vibrates 0.45 on the steer and 0.35 meters per second on the saddle. Now, what I did then is to try to compare those results doing exactly the same experiment in a car. So I put the phone on the passenger seat in a car which is an old Corse 1400, and I register 0.16 on the passenger seat, and then I try to put it on the steer, and I register something around 0.20. So altogether, what does it mean? It means that the Maxsym 600 vibrates a little bit more than the double of a city car. Okay? So this is what we're talking about in terms of vibrations. So you might ask, all this is very interesting, but eventually all these vibration things, is it disturbing or not? Is something that could be seen as a deal breaker, or something that you should really consider as a point of contention in purchasing the scooter? Now, the answer for what I'm concerned is a big no. I mean, I have experienced only once a slight tingling in my right hand after 1.5 years of high-speed drive barehanded. I mean, barehanded means really barehanded, with nothing else than, you know, holding this thing. That's it. So if that is the kind of vibration we are talking about, and this is really the worst that ever happened to me, I think this is more than acceptable. Especially considering the fact that when you're traveling 120, 130 kilometers on this thing, you are bound to feel a lot more road than the engine of the Maxsym. The other thing I have been thinking about is that actually, I mean, this is a monocylindric, okay? So, and that explains, as I said before, why it is priced so competitively, because it has only one piston, which of course doesn't really help in having a super balanced engine. I mean, you can balance a monocylindric as much as you want, but eventually you will feel when the thing pumps, despite all the balancing you can think about. The other thing that I have concluded is that actually the worst vibrations are actually taking place in two occasions. On accelerations, you feel the monocylindric thumping, as they call it. Obviously, I mean, you really feel there is something moving down there. And then you have a certain range of RPMs that is more prone than others. Oh, look, a cat. More prone than others to vibrate more than in another occasion. That's between the 3,000 and the 4,000 RPMs. In that range, for some reason, there is some kind of uncertainty in the way the CVT works. So it's a kind of hesitating if it wants to catch and push, or if it wants to leave and don't push. I'm not sure. Anyway, if you're talking about vibration, that's the range where you can feel it more while riding. Again, I don't think this is bad at all, especially considering the experiences of our other motorcycle riders. We're talking about a different kind of motorcycle, not a scooter, and they're coming out of it with numb hands, numb feet, numb back. I mean, those things can shake a lot more than this. So altogether, I think this is quite a stable two-wheeler for being a monocylindric in general, and in absolute terms for being just something that is on two wheels with an engine which is basically under your butt. Now let's talk maintenance. I did a few things on the Maxsym 609 by myself. First of all, I changed the CVT, the transmission oil. Okay, the transmission oil change was very simple. I will show you a bit later what do you need to do that. But it was really, real work was maybe 10-15 minutes. The rest of the time was actually waiting for this very thick oil to get out and to get in again. So new oil in and old oil out. That takes a while. But real work is really 2 bolts and nothing else. It was extremely simple. The other thing I also did is to clean up the air filter, which is there. Also extremely simple. The thing comes out after you loosen the screws. You just blow it with some compressed air. You clean it. If it is still possible to clean it, if it is still in decent conditions, you put it back, you tighten the screws, and you're done. And then I did the cooling liquid check, which is something which is here down. Let's see. Oops, finger. There you go. This is the cooling liquid. Also extremely simple, not a problem at all. It's just opening that thing, this lid, and refilling with some fluid until it gets more or less here, and you're done. That's true. So also easy. Put back this stuff, and then I noticed at a certain moment that the windscreen was starting to make some noise, so I took off this kind of plastic mask, this stuff, and the way you do it is just to loosen a couple of screws. Let's see if I can get them. Yeah, I think they should be visible. Let me see. I hope you can see them. They're just two screws there. I'm not sure you can see them, but anyway, you lose them. You take out this stuff, and underneath here there are all the screws and bolts that hold the screen to the rest of the scooter. And one trick I learned is that if you experience some noise coming from the screen, what you can do is, once you remove this plastic thing, you can put a couple of absorbent pads, you know, those things you put under the chairs to avoid they make noise, made of textile, those adhesive things, just a little pad. You stick one here, one here, you put the cover back, you screw it up, and just fasten it back, and all the noise is gone. It's really simple. The next thing I need to do is to change the engine oil, but I don't expect to have big problems with that. I mean, it will be more a question of finding the filter and the right oil, and to find some time to do this in peace. But the maintenance of the Maxsym is really simple. You don't need to take out any cover. You don't need to mess around with the bodywork. Piece of cake, really. Very nice stuff. Okay, now a few things I discovered about the Maxsym. One very important thing that you have to take into account is the fuel gauge. The fuel indicator is interesting because it is not linear. I mean, when it is completely full, and you can feel it above the highest notch you can see there, it goes very slowly down until it passes the half tank. From half tank to empty, it takes a lot shorter than from full to half empty, to half tank, and it goes exponential. It's quite interesting. So basically, bottom line is, when the fuel gauge or when the fuel reach that level, you must refill. You really must refill, because this to here goes real fast, and reserve is real small, real small. You really risk to run out of fuel. So my advice is to keep a very good look on the fuel gauge, and remember that it's not linear. And secondly, make use of the trip meter. The trip meter is essential in this on the scooter, because it gives you a far better indication on how many kilometers you still can ride before refueling than the fuel gauge. Now, in terms of consumption, my very empirical results are the following. In normal circumstances, on a full tank, you will drive 250 kilometers, give or take. 250 kilometers, which is a mix of highway at high speed, 120, 130, so we're talking about 5,000 RPMs, plus and a bit of city traffic. City traffic is a killer for the scooter. In ideal circumstances, so basically when we are talking about 4,000 RPMs, around 100 kilometers on the speedo, which makes actually 90 kilometers on the GPS, you can hit the 300 kilometers on a single tank. In the city traffic, you're looking at 200 kilometers on a full tank, because the Maxsym is a heavy scooter, it's 230 kilos, and it is very, very hard not to play with the accelerator while you are in the city. So this stuff drinks. So recapping, 200 city, 250 say mix with the prevalence of highway at high speed, 300 kilometers if you really want to push it. But use the trip meter. When you are above the 200 kilometers, you just start to look for a tank station, please. Especially if you are if you are outside on the highway, you're not in the city and you're not convinced you can find a tank station quickly. Be very careful, because you know, this stuff goes fast, real fast. The other thing that I learned is that the speedo is of course biased, because it is not possible that we get precision instruments on a vehicle, right? They're all biased in order to appear that you are going faster than what you do, because this is safer for you and all this kind of crap. Anyway, so 50 on the speedo is equivalent to 45, 100 on the speedo is equivalent to 90, and 120 is equivalent to 110. And when you hit the 140, you are looking at 125 kilometers per hour. These are the results I am getting on this particular machine, but check it out on your GPS. You can simply measure the stuff on your phone. Just give a look to that, and you can compare what the speedo says versus what the GPS speed is. And of course, the GPS speed is a lot more reliable than this instrumentation. I also read some comments related to the fact that the front fork is a bit on the soft side. I can understand why. I mean, I'm very light, I'm only 60 kilos. So for me, the front fork on the Maxsym is not an issue. But I can imagine if somebody is a big guy, is heavier, 100 kilos plus, a sudden brake on the front brake can give the impression that the soft fork is a bit on the soft side. So it depends very much on how heavy you are. If you are too up, if you are too up and you slam the brakes, front brake can go down. The front fork can go down quite a lot. I did never hear it slamming, but I can imagine in extreme circumstances you can floor it. So it is really a front fork designed not for sport riding, but more from comfort ride. The other thing that I learned is that when you brake for a stop, if you brake with the front brake only, the stability is not as good as when you brake on the combined braking. So on the left lever you get combined braking. If you brake with that, the Maxsym will stop in a much more stable way than only the front wheel brake. Just purely experimental, empirical findings of mine. This is how it feels to me, but you have to see by yourself. So at the end of the day, bottom line is when I'm riding in the city, I'm using the combined brake instead of the front brake, simply because it stops a bit smoother. One thing I love more and more and more of the Maxsym is its cargo capability. I mean, this is really a spaceship of you know, comfort and commoditarian use. If you are not transporting things which are particularly long, you can really load a lot of stuff here. I mean, the underseat storage, as we saw before, is designed in a bit of a strange way. It's not ideal, but quite frankly, you can put a lot of stuff there. Now, mine is almost empty, but it's I have been putting 2 big shopping bags here without no problem. And this one, this back box, it's really cool, man. I mean, I can put my helmet here, and I normally put my helmet here. There you go. See? A lot of space, and I put just the bands like this because it avoids vibration when I'm riding, so it makes it a bit more quiet. But you have a lot of space available, and it's really comfortable. One thing I advise you to do is to put heavy stuff in the under seat storage and not there. There is a limitation from the factory, 10 kilos if you're traveling fast on that thing. So there normally goes my spare helm, maybe a rain jacket or something like that, or something that is not too heavy, and the rest of the heavy stuff is always going down there. Okay, so space is really good. I really like it, and I'm having a lot of use of it, so I'm very, very happy with this. On a side note, I have experimenting a lot with my phone, put it into this kind of concoction here, which I showed you already. But this really works very, very nice, very easy. I modified it slightly, but it's really easy to put your phone there and to use the navigation system that you prefer. I use Waze most of the times, and it is accurate, it is visible, it's really cool, highly advisable. You don't need to put there some fancy motorcycle specific kind of navigation system which costs a lot of money. You can just buy this for, I don't know how much can it cost, but 10, 20, maybe 30 bucks, I think. Check it out, I don't remember anymore, it's quite old. And then you can use whatever phone you have that can run Waze or Google Maps or whatever. Really cool. Vibration on the front brake are still there. I don't really know what it is. I got used to that. It doesn't make any difference in terms of braking effectiveness, so I decided I don't really care. Once the time will come where I need to do some maintenance on the brakes, checking the pads and so on, I'll try to see if I can replace the pads with something different, or maybe I can try to purge the you know, the oil brake circuit to see if there is some air there. I don't think so, but you know, it's one of the things that could be done better, could be smoother, but at the end of the day you get used to that. It's just a characteristic of the scooter, as well as the fact that on acceleration it tends to vibrate a little bit more than otherwise. You can see it in 2 ways. Either you get annoyed by it and you go for a scooter which costs 5,000 euros more, or you just say, oh, who cares? It's actually, you know, you feel there is a pulsating engine underneath you, and it does vibrate a bit more than otherwise only on acceleration, because, you know, on cruising speed the vibration you feel are really coming mostly from the road and the fact that you are passing through the wind, through the air. So I am not annoyed by that. I'm just telling the comment, Sim, could you do something slightly better? That would have been, you know, a bit better. The rear shock absorbers are on 3, I think, which is the stock set. I didn't change anything there. They have been serving me very, very well in all circumstances. I don't see any reason for changing them. The rear absorbers are doing a good job also in the city, also in very uneven terrain. So I'm pretty happy about that. I never experienced skidding, and I got some relatively tight curves for a scooter. So yeah, they're working fine, absolutely fine. So this is the stuff I used to change the transmission oil. It's quite simple. You will need obviously a box for the oil. This is I think a 5 liter, something like that. Then you need obviously something that can help you with getting the oil into a spare bottle like this one. This goes to the recycle place, this used oil. The only piece you need, which is interesting, is this one. This one is really cool. So the characteristic of the hole where you have to put the new oil is that it's pretty small. So it's it's here. It's here. See? It's pretty small and it is almost parallel to the ground, so it's a bit tricky. So what you do is that you take this thing, which is a 500 milliliter. Yeah, it's 500 milliliter, right? You fill it more or less to 500, and then you just put it upside down into the hole. You can even you know, fasten the bottle to somewhere where it doesn't move, and you just have a walk. Now the very thick transmission oil will slowly go into the reservoir, and when you come back, having this box under the scooter, of course, you will see that the tank is full and a bit of oil is overflowing, which is perfect. Officially, the transmission oil tank holds 330 cc transmission oil, but what everybody has been telling me is that it doesn't really matter, that oil doesn't expand. You can just fill it completely, and once you start to overflow, you just stop filling it and you put the bolt back and you're done, which I did. So when you have this kind of concoction here, you can actually put it upside down, like this, and just let it drip for as long as it takes. And it will take a bit of time, I can tell you that. And then once you are done, use this kind of stuff, and I strongly advise you to buy something that is for purpose, so it has to do something, to have something like this. Use this thing, and you pour the used oil into a spare bottle that you can then bring into the recycle. I think that the bolt is a number 10. I'm not completely sure, but I seem to remember it was a number 10, because it's the typical key I always lose and I never can find when I need it. So it is extremely simple, as you can see, and everything you need is really little material to do this. Transmission oil is easy to find. Use a good quality oil, of course, and then you're done. So what is the verdict after 11,500 kilometers and almost 1 year, if I remember correctly? Absolutely great machine. I'm really happy with this. It is extremely useful. It's fun, because I can tell you, when you give gas, it's fun. It really accelerates very nicely, and it has a lot of space. It is very, very stable. It's nice to ride. It's extremely comfortable. I spent 2 hours on this saddle with no stop whatsoever. I came out of it and I was as fresh as I was started. Very, very comfortable stuff, very easy to ride, very reliable, very simple. Just a good scooter, you know, with no you know, hidden features where you can say, oh my god, if I knew it before. There is absolutely nothing in the scooter which is wrong. There are a few things that could have been done better, as I told you several times, but on the whole, for 8,000 euros, this is definitely worth it. If you of course are looking for a commuter. If you're looking to, you know, to race and to ride sportive and to be on a one wheel and to do all this kind of trickery, this is not for you. It's just not the right thing. I've been looking at the market again a number of times, looking for something that has these characteristics, this fantastic commuting characteristic for this kind of price. and this kind of overall package, and I couldn't find anything even close to this. So unless you are really a city rider, in that case you don't need 600cc under your butt. But if you're looking for a commuter that brings you for distances in excess of 100 kilometers, this is probably the best thing that is available on the market today, for the best price, the best characteristics, you know, in comparison to the price you pay. And quite frankly, you know, yeah, you can spend 5,000 euros more for a Burgman, but then what you get from a Burgman? A second cylinder? Fine, great. Then you get also something like 30 or 40 kilos more. Then you need to manage. And then, you know, it's a different kind of machine. And I'm pretty convinced you cannot do with the Burgman stuff you can do with this one, particularly in the city. It's not as flexible, it's not as agile, and it's a really, really heavy machine. Fantastic machine, nothing to say about it, but this beats it in a number of ways. Besides, really, you can maintain it yourself, and that makes a lot of difference in terms of operating costs, because you know, a big service here is 300, 400 euros, and I don't need to let it do by anybody else. I can do it myself, really myself. Oh, one thing before I forget. Online there is the service manual, the manual that is used by the garage to maintain this thing. It's free to download. So why don't you do that? Because it gives you all the information you need on all the parts, all the maintenance schedule, what you need to check, how you need to check it, how often, what you need to do, all the troubleshooting stuff, all the parts up to the last bolt. It's a very interesting reading. If you're into it, you can just find it, and you can have a lot of use of it. So sorry for the long videos, guys. I had a lot of things to tell you about. I hope it was useful. I'm looking forward to see you clicking on like on my video, and if you want to subscribe, I will keep you updated about all the findings I have on the scooter, and also on the other things I might discover about it. So I want to do other videos as well. So yeah, it was a pleasure to have you with me again today, and leave me a comment if you have questions. Please do ask questions. I'm making sure that I reply to all the comments I'm getting, to all the questions I'm getting, because the idea here is not to sell anything, but just to help you in assessing whether the Maxsym 600i is the right scooter for you. So I'll see you. Bye.